All right. Cold weather lit up their brown fat. The ones who didn't have brown fat, guess what? They were all getting their scans in the spring and summertime. Amazing, right? So our body sort of has this thermostat that leverages our muscles, our brown fat to make sure our core temperature is actually doing well. But and just like a hibernating animal, even though we don't have to crawl into caves anymore, most of us don't. The bottom line is that we still have brown fat that is to our advantage. However, that brown fat is around, and when you do cold plunges or cold showers, all right, or as you're alluding to, and what I did my research on for the book is that there are certain foods that can fire up your brown fat, so you get that extra boost of fat burning, fuel burning, even when the weather is actually pretty temperate.
Yeah. Well, okay. Now I'm interested to stay on the temperature side of things. If you said that people's brown fat was lighting up when they were getting their PET scans in the winter, I think oftentimes I'm, like we discussed beforehand, I'm from Atlanta, live in Nashville, so I'm in the South. It's always pretty warm. And when it gets below 40 degrees here, we're like, oh my gosh, it's absolutely freezing. And then when people up north just laugh at us when it's like that's just normal for them. Do people up north, just generally speaking, have more brown fat in their body than maybe people who live in the South? Is that a thing?
You know what? It's probably that the people in the north have brown fat that's lit up more often because the
Mm,
weather is generally colder. But people's thermostats reset, right? So just because you live in Arizona or Florida doesn't mean that you don't use your brown fat. But,
mm.
because your temperature resets and then it's relatively cool to you, right? So if you're from the southeast, right, it's pretty warm most of the time, but relatively, like somebody in the northeast, like I'm from New England. Look, something that might be cold to you, it's not cold to me, right? You hear this
Yeah.
from California people all the time. Oh
Right.
man, it's freezing. Yeah, not that cold.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like 50 degrees. Get over it. That's awesome. Um, uh, so let's hear some of those foods that light up your brown fat and turn on brown fat and increase your metabolism.
All right. Well, so, I study food as medicine. I'm a researcher, scientist, and I'm also a medical doctor, and I'm internal medicine. So I take care of men and women, young and old, healthy and sick. And I'm always really interested in, what does food do to activate our body's health defenses to be healthier? In other words, not just what are the magic foods. Like there's so many ads out there that talk about like superfood this, super supplement that. Look, you know what? That's to me, that's the wrong point of view. What's really super is our body. That's really Mother Nature is amazing how she designed everything. But our bodies are remarkably designed. And what's the real question you want to ask is how does our body respond to what you put inside it? And as it relates to brown fat, the question you're asking is what are some of the foods that cause your body to respond by turning on
Mm.
brown fat? Surprisingly, right? So here are some surprises. Turns out that strawberries turn on brown fat. Okay. Strawberries, which is a summer food, right? You eat the strawberry, there's something called ellagic acid inside. Ellagic acid is what makes strawberries tart, right? A good strawberry is kind of sweet and tart at the same time. Got some dietary fibers, got some vitamin C, some good stuff for your body. But with the tartness, it's called ellagic acid. And ellagic acid, when you eat it, it goes down to your stomach, absorbs in your bloodstream, and guess what it does? It starts to turn on your brown fat. And in fact,
Mm.
studies have been done in humans looking at strawberries, the equivalent of about a cup of ripe strawberries. All right. That then get dehydrated into a powder and then mix into a drink. So the researchers were able to measure the exact amount of strawberries that people are having. But it's really a cup of ripe strawberries. Basically, we have it every single day for like 6 weeks. And you know what they found? They found that it turns on brown fat, and it also that brown fat shrinks down the visceral fat that's in the tube of your body. Doesn't matter if you're a big body or small body, we're all tubes, and that visceral fat in there burn down the fuel. And you know what happens? Waist size shrinks, waist circumference shrinks. If you don't have a DEXA scan, which is used by health and fitness people to kind of measure different types of tissues in the body, a good surrogate, kind of a poor man's DEXA scan, is simply your belt loop. Because
Mm.
if you're actually able to tighten your belt loop one notch, that means that your waist circumference has shrunk, right? Pants are a little looser. You put one more hole in there in order to be able to keep my pants up. that's actually a measure of your visceral fat. So think about it. Your tube, stretchy, because it's just our human body, right? The spine is solid, but the tube is stretchy. You're growing a lot of visceral fat in the middle there. What are you going to do? You're going to stretch it out. And now your belt's going to have to be a little wider. You shrink down that visceral fat, the tube gets smaller. Now the belt's a little tighter. So just remember that your belt is actually a poor man's DEXA scan to give you a sense of how much visceral fat you're burning. By the way, the beer gut, so there's things like alcohol, lots of carbs. Beer gut is really a lot of visceral fat growing. And the reason that the beer gut is pooching over, right? First it expands your waist, then it grows grows like an avalanche over your belt. All right, now your belt can't even contain it anymore. That's really not just muffin top. All right, muffin top's under the skin. Beer gut is actually pooching out from the inside out.
And you can tell when the gut, it's not just flabby, it's hard, right?
Yeah, it's firm. It's firm. It's basically like it's basically like your recyclable grocery sack that you stuffed with everything you got into it. The whole thing is like firm and tense, right?
Yeah,
exactly. So we got strawberries. What are like 4 more?
Oh yeah, sure. Mushrooms, and I'm going to separate mushrooms.